would be assessed at a later
So
date.
There's 8 of them that have been identified as half.
Yeah, so there's some, I think the properties would be, we've got this property here, we've got, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this property, 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
The problem with that, though, is that, and I believe statute says whatever main direction the main face of the property is facing gets 100% assessment. Because I was on a corner, but I was assessed 100%.
Sure.
So I think all of these.
Yeah, I don't know if it's state statute required,
No,
but
I
I mean
think
the
city-
city, yeah,
city
city
ordinance, I mean, not
ordinance,
statute, yep.
yeah,
So I would just be careful that if we're giving them all half of an assessment, that
right.
it's not what we've done. but-
Because there was a house that got on Bud, but their frontage was on whatever that little spur is.
Independence, yeah.
And they got assessed about $6,000 because they were pulling water off of that smaller road instead of off of Bud, but they had improvements on Bud on their east side of their property. So I think that, is that what you're?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. It's
And we
whichever
could-
direction their property.
Right.
And I think that's a good point the council is making. We can revise this table to reflect if it's a corner lot that has their address on this, say on Independence versus Perkins, we can make that adjustment. So I think that's a good point. Right now, the half was how I explained it, and we'll make an adjustment on that.
I also hope that we learned something from the last year's assessment on the special benefits assessment. And are we concerned at all that, I see some of these parcels, and obviously these are so preliminary in numbers, they're hard to look at. But, you even did a $16,000 maximum. Some of these are $40,000 properties. How in the world are we ever gonna defend that on a $40,000 property, we're gonna assess $16,000?
Highest and best use.
Right. No, I would,
Yeah, we're not going there.
I would definitely, I mean,
Residential.
right, and I would definitely agree with the council that, yeah, the special benefit, that would definitely be one of the properties that you probably would look at, as well as other typical ones. You'd take some that have the larger lots, the small lot, and what you had on your last one was that, yeah, the value was, you couldn't assess more than 10,000 on some properties, so.
And that will all get worked out in the process.
Right.
I just hope we learned something from all the pain we had last year.
Well, I think
through
that there's again, as mentioned previously too, all these projects are different, so you can't compare them. I think one thing that makes this project a lot different than the last one is just what the land is zoned for. So it's what is the highest and best use of the property here. A lot of it is residential use, R1 single family residential use. Whereas the last project was, it could be used for a multitude, it was mixed use, so that made that a little bit more challenging. But with our special benefit analysis that we provide here, it'll be pretty black and white for a lot of these properties.
Okay, and that's what I wanna make sure that we're
Yep.
just covering ourselves so that if that question is asked, I think part of what we learned last time was careful what you asked for, because a couple of the places after the special benefits assessment
Changed.
went significantly up.
Yeah, exactly, and with my experience too, is we would request that special benefit analysis from a different appraiser. Just given my own experiences, not that I felt that the information we got at our last project was inaccurate, but more of the timeline that Dan had mentioned of getting these results back were not sufficient to staff standards or to council. So, as a result of that, the resolution approving and moving forward with this would dictate when we would start getting that process in
Correct.
motion.
Two questions for Dan and Bobby. A comment that was raised in the middle of Bud was, are we building big enough to take advantage of the benefits of mobilization and whatever? Is a $2 million project? You've got history. You two have history on Maine and Rainbow. Is it big enough?
You know what, in all seriousness, A factor that we have to take into consideration, and I don't have the answer off the top of my head, but something council needs to be aware of is that we do have leftover bond dollars from numerous other projects that would, theoretically, we could lower our bond amount that we would have to bond for, because by state statute, we can only use bond dollars on certain things. If we bond for a street reconstruction project on Bud, if we have leftover dollars, we can use that on a project like this, and so on for Main and Rainbow and any other street reconstruction project we have done. There is some money set aside that would knock this number below $2 million and down a little bit. Is it still gonna have a impact on our tax base when we do it? Absolutely. There's no doubt about that in terms of what we bond and what we're gonna have to go and take care of this, no matter how far we knock it down. I think that's something that we need to gather more information in terms of how much money we do have left from other projects that could lower this and then ask us to expand. But I think $2.1 million is probably where we want to be compared to 1.6.
Yeah, and John, I think you asked a legitimate question. I think if you play this out, and this is 2 million, year or two from now, we're starting to pay debt on that 2 million. Then you go out 2 more years and you do another $2 million project, and then 2 years after that, go out then 5 years, you've really got $4 million worth of debt that you're doing. I think the time to look at that is with the next project that we're doing, is to take a hard look at, do we continue to do these 2 million at a shot? That goes to debt ratio that we have and how much, we can go borrow.
Well, and that
At
also,
some point, you're paying it all back.
that
That's
also
the
goes to
problem.
what you talked about the special or the special benefit analysis, because this is a more homogeneous neighborhood, whereas Bud was an odd one.
Yeah.
I think that brings up an important discussion that we should have, though, about special assessments as part of, you said we could reduce our bond. Why don't we consider also reducing special assessments instead? It's not a topic we'll settle tonight, but I think I'd like to see some data, how would it impact our city budget if we reduce special assessments instead? Because frankly, I think looking at these numbers, it shouldn't surprise people. I think they're high, and I think we need to lower the burden on residents. So that's my first initial impression.
When do the residents get these proposed assessments?
They're published online, so I mean.
Right, but there's gonna be a public hearing. Do they get these specific numbers for their address, or is it just if they happen to stumble across them? Or?
Right. I mean, historically, at the public hearing, we'll have a handout that lists these, your property name and address and the amount. So we would anticipate at that December 18th meeting, we'd have a handout. They don't get it mailed to them. They just get a notice saying there's a public hearing related to this. So they have to come to the meeting, but yeah, you can put it online too at that point in time.
To say it's published online is true, but they're gonna have to flip through 174 pages. So,
Right.
To make it a little bit easier to find, I would love people to be prepared with information than shocked with information at a public hearing like this. So,
One thing we can do is when we do send out our public hearing notice and we notify these property owners, we could put their individual property number in the notice. So they're aware of what the preliminary, and that's the other side of the coin, the flip side of the coin is that these numbers are nowhere near concrete yet. And
I'm not even advocating that, but just saying this is how you can access it online versus
Sure.
just downloading every packet and going through 175 pages. So,
the only thing I'm just leery about there is we haven't done any special benefit analysis yet. And I mean, granted, we've got numbers out that are here to kind of get the ball rolling, but I don't necessarily feel like this is. The reality is all right, if you're a property owner and you see this number, it doesn't matter if it's lower or higher than what it is, you're gonna be upset, but we've got nothing to back up these numbers yet. So I don't,
Right.
That's kind of where I'm at is,
I know the average resident isn't going to understand this process. They're going
Sure.
to see, especially the 50% column, go, what is happening? I need to
Yeah.
sell my house right now. So just explaining the process, and I just don't want people to be shocked by these numbers
Sure.
when they see them. So,
Well, and last year I said this, 3 years ago I said this, so I'll say it again. I think it's disingenuous to put the 50% columns on here because we're not gonna be looking at that. I think all it does is scares people. I think we educate them better, to your point. We put the 35% out, which has been our standard. That's our starting point for uncomplicate this spreadsheet for the normal person to be able to read and get rid of the ones that we're not gonna do.
I understand that. We've just got to provide options, and sometimes that doesn't always look the greatest. That's just presenting data. I know in the past we've done 50% assessments, so it's just providing that option.
I
It's
want
not always the greatest, but.
to talk briefly about the special benefits analysis, if there is one, because I made a note here that assessment hearing October or November of 2018. I circled that because that scared me, because one small delay and we end up where we were 12 months ago. And I don't want to do that. So if we do a special benefits analysis ahead of time, how many would you be doing? Would you be doing every property?
No.
No.
Okay, so you would try to find similar frontages, similar houses, so that you could do a special benefit analysis on,
Yeah, we'd want to find properties that are close to other properties. So, I mean, if there were kind of, just a broad example, if there were 30 homes and each of the 30 were broken into kind of 3 sections. So there were 10 homes that had one property lot that was smaller, 10 homes, one that was medium. We want to pick one of each of those.
Correct.
So that they represent the majority of the homes being looked at. So that we've got some data that's reflective of all,
so as
if
far
not
as
most of the properties.
Dan's little list there at the end, as far as kind of direction, I'm a proponent of doing some form of special benefits analysis, because that was super helpful for Bud. And we're gonna need that in order to justify assessing taxpayers of the city. So I'd rather do them somewhere during instead of at the end when we do a public hearing. That's my position
Yeah, no,
on
I think
that.
we're gonna do them regardless.
Okay.
We have to.
But can we do them in
Yeah, we can-
June instead of
Well, I would do
October?
them. Yeah, I'd do them actually before that.
Okay.
I'd want to
Spring.
probably look at getting the special benefit analysis going, probably before we even award a bond or get the bonds done or anything. I'd probably want to start as early as potentially January, February next year. There's nothing slowing us down from doing it now. Like, that's the thing. So the sooner we can do it, the better. So we'll just do it now. I mean, we've got no reason not to. We can find the benefit and then shore up the numbers, and that's what we know. But
So-
if we know the benefit beforehand, it doesn't make a difference.
Bonds are done after the opening of the bids anyways, so we've
Well-
got firm pricing essentially in order to.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter if we do the feasibility study before that.
Okay.
But the one thing is that we'll get going on the bond process once we approve this feasibility study and we lock down the price range. So you can see in the resolution, it has $2,095,000 as the number in the resolution, and some of these questions will dictate if that goes up or down. So I mean, I think the best way to kind of answering this is just kind of going down the middle and asking, are we, is council okay with doing a sewer lining on that one area that Dan showed, or a full replacement? Sounds like from an I&I standpoint, lining it, there's no difference other than, lining it or replacing it's kind of the same, and it's a cheaper alternative, or we good with saving a few bucks doing that?
Yeah, if there's no
Same
difference in
outcome.
I don't
performance.
see any cons,
Mhm.
so I don't know why we wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, that's
Mhm.
my gut.
The backyard drainage, we could tackle that now or wait till Perkins. It's closer to Perkins, and I
I'd
don't
wait
know
till
of any
Perkins.
issues at this time. I don't know
I
if
say
Dan
if
does.
nothing came up in the walkthrough and Dan didn't see anything.
Is there
Well,
issues
there's-
with it at this point, you know?
Well, I know there was issues at the time when they approached the council, and then there was some property owner that was doing a driveway that had maybe cut the tile, and then they ended up fixing the tile, and then it seemed to work better. But I remember in 2013, 2014, it was like, hey, we had all this water sitting in the back there, and I think it was, that drain tile just wasn't working. So I think right now there's been some improvements, but I think they'll talk about it with you at the public hearing. But I agree that, You know, Perkins is, it's a lot shorter distance. We can go right down a lot line to where that existing catch basin is. It just seems like waiting would be the best bet, but.
Dan,
That's what I'm hearing.
the additional cost to widen Independence from Howard to Baker Park, obviously that's excavating, that's bituminous, but is that also potentially utility movement and nope, that's just the cost of the road?
Right, and we
Okay.
did put in some estimates at this stage for maybe some retaining walls. Sometimes when you widen the
Okay,
street.
So the retaining walls.
Yeah, and as you get closer to Baker Park Road is where we thought, if you drive out there and look, you think, okay, this is gonna be wider. You don't wanna make the slope of their yard such that it's gonna be hard to mow, et cetera. So sometimes you may have to put some retaining wall
Mound
in.
just did that.
So, just to back up real quick with council, are we good with waiting on backyard drainage until
Mhm.
we do the
Yes.
Perkins project?
Yep, everyone's
Okay.
in agreement with that.
Let's do that.
Which other decisions need to be made tonight, Dan?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you could make that decision after you hear their discussion, but it's good to kind of know what you're thinking. Street width, that's also something I think
I'd like to hear from
we need
residents.
to,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'd say the main thing is just kind of that preliminary assessment role. You know, what you want shown. I heard some discussion of just showing 35%. You know, market value, I kept that in for your review, and I think that maybe helped you in looking at, well, boy, this one is only, here's the market value and here's what we're assessing. But I don't know if we've always shown that to the public. So it's just maybe looking at this table and just saying, hey, go with option 1, Dan. You don't monkey with option 2, and then maybe do you want to make it simpler so that the average person can follow it? And
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary, Dan, to break it up by what is the sewer, what is the water, what is the.
just the total,
Yeah.
that's the bottom
Because they
line
don't-
here.
that's-
Yeah.
that's a-
Yeah, they don't
that's
care.
fair.
Just want to know the bottom line.
What am I gonna pay?
Yep.
And I think part of the education's got to be that reminder that we have to bond at 20%.
On that what?
If you're gonna bond, you have to assess at least 20%.
Oh.
Realistically, it's closer to 23 because of fees and other things. But yeah, there's state statute. You're spot on, Mike, that the floor is 20%. With us, it's closer to 23. Yep.
So we're all in agreement, in cleaning this up, then we can take it off the 50% as
Yeah.
well to
Mhm.
everyone, to help with the shock.
Okay.
And, over communicating that these are all preliminary, nothing is final, so.
Yeah.
I think we also need to keep in mind that as part of what we're gonna be doing next year, we still have some other pieces the city's gonna be doing, including
Oh, yeah.
the water main and some,
Drain
some other
tile
parts
and-
of,
yeah.
in other parts of town that we're gonna be doing.
Yeah, there's no assessments tied to that part of the project, so they wouldn't be necessarily required for the public hearing initially, but will be part of the public hearing as the process goes on, as projects are being done. It might be beneficial to kind of hold those a little bit separate from this project.
Probably,
and
so we don't
that-
confuse or that somebody doesn't think my assessments are going towards
Yeah.
fixing
Yeah,
that
they're probably
water
just-
main that we're gonna
Correct.
fix.
Yeah, correct.
I think
That's spot on.
So I think that was good feedback. So and then we have the resolution that would actually set the date for the public hearing in your packet.
Any further discussion? All right. I'm looking for a motion to approve Resolution 17-1127-05. Approve the feasibility study for 2018 street and utility improvements and set public hearing date.
I'll move we approve that resolution.
Second.
Moved by DeLuca, second by Fay. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving Resolution 17, oops, sorry,
That's all right. Councilmember Cahill.
Aye.
Councilmember Fay.
Aye.
Councilmember DeLuca.
Aye.
Councilmember Broda.
Aye.
Mayor Moskowski.
Aye.
The ayes have it, 5-0.
All right. Moving on, oh, did you have something, Councilmember
Nope,
Fay?
nope, nope.
Moving on to council reports and other business, we'll start with Councilmember Cahill.
Just real quick, I also attended the neighborhood walk for the street project we just discussed. We had a great turnout despite below freezing temps. I also just want to thank Public Works. I saw them hanging the snowflake lights on the coldest day last week. It was actually cold, not 60 degrees, and it looked beautiful in time for the holidays. So thank you, Public Works. It looks great.
I was invited to a Veterans Memorial in Long Lake, November 11th. And it was very nice. There was music, there was speeches, there was veterans, there was the mayor, and I just kept thinking, when we get our Veterans Memorial, we'll be able to do the same thing in Maple Plain. So it was very nice. And one thing going forward for everyone, Krista Barta, works for Hennepin County, I think Bobby's had discussions with her. She is reaching out to all the city councils to attend a meeting or two. I told her I didn't know if a business meeting was necessarily necessary, but if we get some dates on the calendar for she's a rural conservationist, so when we get into the storm sewers and what have you, she might be able to come here and offer some kind of assistance to homeowners. It's up to you. She's reaching out to us. I told her once I'd start to get some dates, I'd give her a couple of weeks heads up.
Yeah.
Is it a little premature for December 18th?
I think at this time it is a little bit. In the
Yep.
spring, we'll really tackle that. But yeah, business meeting's a great place because then we'll make it really public out for the residents, and it'll be on camera, and that'll be good. People do watch our videos, so that's good. It's true. People do watch us on camera, so that's a good thing. And yeah, that'll be a good platform for that. That's good stuff.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Councilmember DeLuca.
I too attended the neighborhood walk-through. It was cold that day. As long as you had a hat, you were good. And also wanted to thank Councilmember Fay for filling in for me at the Fire Relief Board. The Fire Relief, as you recall, is our entity that works with the pensions for our firefighters. Obviously, it was a good year this year from an investment return. So I think we'll be seeing some more stuff from the fire department in the next month.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilmember Broda.
I got to be in the first interview with the fire chief under the new policies, and just want to thank Justin for all of his hard work over the last year, and just being in the interview and hearing his goals and vision for what's to come is just great. So we're in very good hands with Chief McCoy. I also want to thank Carter. I tested out his bench in the park for his eco project, and it's comfortable and sturdy, and a great addition to the park. So thank you, Carter, for that. And just another note: there is a chance I may not be here at the next meeting, depending how things go with the birth of our first son. So it could happen around that time, but so just a heads up on that. But
You'll be excused for that one.
thank you. Yeah.
All right. I've been able to attend the Northwest Hennepin League of Municipalities, the Regional Council of Mayors, and then also the Highway 12 Safety Coalition, along with Chief Krails and Administrator Schoen. So it's been a busy month. I also want to thank all of council and the Planning Commission. We had a joint meeting, which was very beneficial to talk about the comp plan and the survey results. If anyone's interested in those, they are all on the website, easy to find, easy to read. And then also just really looking forward to the great tradition that West Hennepin Public Safety offers with View Santa and their reserves. This Saturday evening, rain, shine, snow, no matter how cold, they are there. And we encourage everyone to come on out to Northside Park. I believe there'll be fire pits and cookies and can have pictures with Santa, and the city will light the Christmas tree. So come on out around 4:40, and you can also check the paper and the websites if you want to see Santa in your neighborhood. So that is all I have. And do we have any visitors to be heard? All right, having no visitors to be heard, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Moved by DeLuca,
A second.
second by Rhoda, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, the meeting is adjourned at 9:15.
Is this been our longest meeting in a while?
No,
No?
now that we're at one a month.
Oh, that's true.